this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I get to interview 29 fantastic Black women for 29 straight days. Yes, I know this is a little insane, but this is the sixth year I'm doing it. It fuels my soul. It makes me so happy to find all these fantastic ladies and have them share their stories. And today, I'm super delighted to have LaToya Christian. She's founder and advisor of Brazen Media Consulting. She's got a tremendously awesome story, type A like me, and it's going to be a great conversation. So let's dive right on in. Hi, LaToya.
Hi, Laura. Type A minus.
No, listen, I fully wear the A. It's fine. You know what? Like,
we love it. We get things done.
We get stuff done. Like if you want something done, ask a really Black woman. Like that's the rule. Like
exactly.
Quit your complaining. So first question, which should be quite interesting, I'm sure, for you. LaToya, what was your all-time favorite First all-time favorite job?
My all-time favorite job. I would say my all-time favorite job was probably my first corporate job. And I worked at a little company named Time Inc., which was formerly called Time Warner for the kids 35 and under who remember that. And at that job, I feel like it was just such a great foundation for me, just even starting my career. And the best thing about that job was I had a lot of opportunity and flexibility to just learn. And I felt like I was learning in, I would say, a safe space. And I know, especially when you're coming from corporate environments, especially as a Black person, especially as a Black woman, that is not always the case. But the reason it felt safe is because I had the most amazing community of Black people and Black women around me, which at the time, I honestly probably took it for granted. I didn't realize that this was not the norm in corporate America, but I had a phenomenal community of people around me who taught me, pulled me to the side, corrected me lovingly. If I needed to cry and figure something out, I could do that. But it was a place where I could have those connections with people while also learning and growing and developing my career. And so for me, that is my favorite first job, I would say, right? And I think it's something that I often crave, just even that community aspect of what that role gave me at the time.
Okay. Wow. And how many 29 Days of Magic episodes have I done? Okay, 6 years times 30, almost 200. That is the first time I've ever heard that. Like it's also that explains you. That fully explains you, because that makes beautiful sense. Because like you walk into a room and you're like, "Yep, that's her." I remember the first time we met, I was like, "Oh, who is this?" Okay.
I always remember that about you
too. But yeah, I think that is so important. I think it's also so important for younger folks to understand that if you actually do get the blessing, because it is a blessing,
really
of having to be around, a much more diverse, with intention and community. Because you can have a group of folks who don't want to chat for you; they just all happen to be there. But like if you're around folks who want to elevate and lift you, and who might want to teach you and give you a good kick in the behind, like you got to take it as a gift and not walk away from that. Or think you know everything, blah blah blah, and it sounds like I can tell that you just suck it all up like a sponge, and and learn so much from that. And then this is, like I said, this all now makes sense. So from that kind of a really amazing first, corporate job to where you are now, what was that journey like?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that being in that role at that company at that time really taught me, which really is helping me even now as we continue to go through transformation in our industry, is to be okay with ambiguity. And the reason I mentioned that is, like I said, I was at Time Inc., which was a publishing arm of Time Warner. And I was there at a time doing really phenomenal work in terms of helping iconic brands such as People and InStyle and Essence and Time really understand their audiences and their consumers and translating that to the dynamic storytelling they were bringing forth. But I also realized that the inability or the ability to change as the landscape changed, so moving from print to digital platforms, also was something that really was important. And I learned from that being able to understand consumers, being able to move even despite not having all the answers is really important. And I saw how, sometimes large organizations or institutions kind of struggle with that, right? And so from that led me to really wanting to seek out a new opportunity that was going to put me at the forefront of working directly with brands and really being at the forefront of a lot of the transformation that was taking shape in the industry at the time, which led me to the agency side. And so being in that environment is a world in of its own, right? It is a very unique world.
It's a
Where
planet. It's a
it
completely
is
different planet.
a planet in and of itself. But once again, I said that I had a really great foundation being at Time Inc. And so I had a really strong sense of self, which I realize now how important that was going into an environment such as an agency. And I was working for one of the largest media agencies in the world. And that in and of itself is a whole other planet within the universe, right? So it's just massive. Um, and within that, the thing that I appreciated the most was really being able to work with global brands in a rapid environment and helping them navigate change and work through change at a very strategic level. And what was very consistent overall was everyone was dealing with a challenge of some kind. And a lot of times it was really just the inability to connect the dots. And that really became or has become my superpower, just really being able to have a certain level of foresight, right? So seeing things happening in the marketplace and then being able to connect it pretty quickly to what you're starting to see emerge in terms of patterns and behaviors that brands or your clients may be experiencing, but they haven't quite connected what is going on just yet. So really being able to understand marketplace dynamics, audience intelligence, and connecting that together to help my clients understand what their growth strategy should be, what their media and marketing strategy should be, that really became my sweet spot. And so I look at all of that, throughout time in terms of just where I am today, in terms of being in an advisory role and really helping brands and organizations understand what those strategic levers they need to push or pull in order to get them to where they really need to be from a growth perspective or a cultural relevancy perspective as well.
And it's so necessary right now because I think we're in this weird wave. This is kind of the
Very
only way to
weird.
sort of explain
Very
it.
weird.
And like, there's a backlash to the backlash to the backlash.
Yeah.
And it's hard for brands to kind of understand, like, where do we go? Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And kind of saying that, like, listen, you're not Nostradamus, but like you can read the trends and see I mean, like, otherwise you'd have a lot of numbers and you'd be in the same parts. But like, what are you seeing as ways for brands to be smart and relevant in this, again, very tumultuous time?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I've seen in past roles and even currently is that a lot of times there is just an inability to move. There is an inability to take
They get
action.
stuck.
Yeah, they get stuck or we get stuck, right? We get in our heads, we get stuck. And, there's also I'm ready to do it once I see someone else do it. And then when I see someone else do it, then I'll jump on, right? And then that's where you kind of lose the relevancy piece, right? Because you're coming in after the fact. So the biggest thing I see is just the inability to once again connect the dots, but then also take action. And that happens more often than not with a lot of really great brands and a lot of really great organizations. But, I call it kind of like the, what is it, analysis paralysis, right? Where you're constantly like thinking through all the scenarios and then you just fail to do anything.
Yeah, it's like you hear all the listening, and you're like, all right, cool, I want to do
Mhm.
this, I want to do this, but like, and like, what if this happens? What if this happens? And then the moment's passed. And
Exactly.
one of the things I saw that I was like surprised, pleasantly surprised was that Apple's response to Bad Bunny, like went like
Right.
they not only went in but all the way in a way that I had not seen them do
Mhm.
before the Super Bowl, and then after the Super Bowl, I don't know if you saw the ad
Yes,
that they
right.
sort of they cut all the looks in, and
Yeah.
I was calling out their countries, and you're like super smart, but also hella risky. So like,
Yeah.
when you see stuff like that right now again in this climate, what is that telling you about how brands like them are behaving?
I think they know where their growth is coming from, right? And I think, and I always say about media and marketing, we see this dynamic spot, right? And it's a beautiful spot. It reinforces the power of the brand and how the brand comes to life in everyday ways of living, and manifested into this beautiful spot. But behind that is really they understand the dynamics of the marketplace. They understand where their consumers, their growth is coming from. They have a clear insight and that emotion that connects to them, and then that translates into this dynamic spot. That's why it resonates, right? So when I see something like that, I'm like, okay, someone on this team, all the way from just understanding the marketplace to working with their creative partners, they get it, right, all the way through. And so yes, it's risky, but I think that, there are certain brands that have permission to take that risk. And when you just think about, to your point about the before, during, and after of how they compounded this, really massive and amazing cultural moment around the Super Bowl halftime, I think that gives them license and permission to lean in. And obviously it's being well received.
Yeah, I mean, I just was again pleasantly surprised. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
Apple, because I was like, oh, okay, I see you. But
Yeah.
also understanding that the moment that we're in, you have to know that somebody was going to be like, I don't know if we should do all this, and they were like, like we can support it till like the Super Bowl, and then like, okay, well, it's like let it all go,
Yeah.
especially since all of the other things that were supposedly happening the same time as it. But to
Yeah.
then have the foresight to understand that, like, even the moment that when he's going to call out all countries would be a thing that would get
Mm-hmm.
folks all hyped. Because again, like, no one knew it was coming. But to capture those moments and understand that, like, there obviously it's clear people with cultural understanding and nuance were in that room because everyone
Absolutely.
knows if you call out Jamaica, Jamaicans are going to go nuts. If you call out, of course, but if you pronounce Haiti the correct way, folks are
Right.
gonna be like are gonna be about that.
Yeah.
And I think that really kind of speaks to like, okay, we're in a very weird time.
We
But
are.
if one of the biggest brands in the world, when they're spending tens of millions of dollars for this moment, are like, you know what, we're gonna bet on the future and not in the past. I think that it does. I hope let other brands who are significantly smaller see that there is room to play here if you are thoughtful about this, but you fill the room with the right folks.
100%. And I think to your point, the word is thoughtful. Like this didn't, I know we all get this amazing moment, but you and I have been in these types of rooms. We know the level of intention and time and focus that goes into, making something like this happen. So for me, it feels as though it was intentional, right? And that it wasn't something that happened just by happenstance. And then once again, I think the beauty of it and the reason why it's relevant, it resonates so much right now is because it was built off of a really massive cultural moment that is also very timely. And so I do think all these things kind of work together in their own way to help like build this momentum. And right now, Apple is really benefiting from that, in terms of just being top of mind and having that emotional connection and relevance, not only to the halftime, but then now to this spot that people are talking about. I'm sure they want to see if this translates to sales. But yeah, absolutely. I think that timing is everything, but then also that intention that goes behind it has to be seen.
Yeah,
into.
it's the intent to purchase, and then it's the actual purpose. Like,
Yeah.
did you buy a new pair of AirPods? Did you buy a new iPhone?
Right.
Like, did you buy
Yeah.
some Air Max headphones to listen to Bad Bunny when you're on the plane? Like, what was it?
Yeah.
So seeing what you have been able to do, what do you think your moment of like looking at the landscape and then say, I need to do a bit of a reset came along for you?
Yeah. So the reset for me, I it's crazy because when you start as you get older and you and I have Caribbean grandparents and heritage, you start realizing you understand all the little quotes and things that your older people in your life used to say. You're like, oh my God, that never made sense before. It makes sense now. But there has been a lot of value for me in slowing down a bit, which once again we've talked about the environment of being an agency, being in marketing. It's very fast paced, but when you're able to slow down a bit, I do believe that you get a little bit more clarity, and in a weird way you get a little bit more momentum, and the momentum for me comes from the clarity, right? You're not just doing to do, or just being busy and just shuffling things along. You really have more focus and clarity and intention about what needs to be done, what's the problem, and really being able to put your energy, focus, and resources behind it. And so for me, that's part of the reset, like just slowing down and just taking a breath for a moment and being able to see what's really happening. And from that, just realizing where we are in a landscape. I talk about data all the time. I'm a data girly, right? And so just understanding that organizations and brands right now have more data than they know what to do with, and literally don't know what to do with it. Literally, right? It's like, you have no idea what to do with this, right? And so for me, just having that clarity as to, the transformation we're in terms of AI and what that means in terms of data integrity, but then also human insight and human connection. For me, that has really allowed me to zero in on really honing on my superpower, right? Which is being able to connect those things together. So, supporting organizations that are struggling with that clarity has been something that's been very beneficial. And then also working with organizations that, once again, like I said, I talk about the analysis paralysis, where it's like we know we need to move some things forward, but we don't know our story. We don't know where we are and how we show up in the landscape, and just being able to help them sort through a lot of that. So that's been slowing down, and then getting that clarity to get to this point has been a really great reset for me.
I love that. And I think it's so important, especially for Black women. Slow the hell down. Okay? Like,
Slow down,
oh,
and we have to give ourselves permission for that. I don't think, for all the amazing things that it is to be a Black woman, I do think that one of the things we do struggle with collectively is just being able to slow down. We play a role in so many different ways to everyone and everything, but I don't think we really emphasize the power of stillness a little bit. Yeah.
it's important. It's the
It's
only way
scary
we
as
survive.
we get older.
It's the only way we're going to survive any of this nonsense.
Yeah.
Straight up, is
Yeah.
to slow down
Take a
and
breath.
just take a breath, whatever. And what that breath can look like, a lot of different things. It could be, listen, I'm just removing things off my calendar, to be like, I'm actually going to take a month off. Like, I'm going
Right.
to take 6 months off. I'm going
Right.
to completely do something entirely different. There are no
Absolutely.
hard and fast rules about what it needs to be and what does slow down mean. I mean, I feel like I've had a few in the last couple of years,
Yeah.
and every time I've done it, it's been like, okay, I come back and I'm like, ooh, more world domination
I
plans.
was gonna
New.
say every time is learning better and like just more phenomenal. Absolutely.
And that's okay. And I think, we do talk about our, Caribbean like upbringings and elders. And, my parents still don't know what I do. I have tried. I give up. I just give. It's like I have a job or four. Like, I'm following the stereotype. But, there is this thing where, like, we are taught to, like, work really hard, like don't complain, do the job, work for 30 years, you'll have a nice retirement, buy a house, do the thing,
Yeah.
and that can happen, and that happen, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And I think that's very important for us, especially again in these unprecedented
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
to let all
Yeah.
that go and realize that if we are living and working in 2026, and we are our immigrant parents and grandparents' wildest dream come true. Because
Absolutely.
whatever they had to do to get to this country, to allow us to be sitting on a video platform to talk about our careers on a Sunday afternoon, is not even fathomable when you think about it. And like how far we've come in under 100 years, in under 50 years, quite frankly,
Yeah.
to be able to do that. And I think, those are the things that we have to sort of keep in mind as we grow and change at this particular moment that we're all in.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add to that, I had an interesting conversation with my dad a few days ago, and you mentioned kind of like the path that we're taught to take, right? And you do this and you do this and it equals this. And one of the things he said to me, we talked about like this linear path, and he's like, it doesn't exist anymore, right? And I think also giving yourself permission and license to realize that like life is not linear, careers are not linear, and so, just, I don't want to say just go with it. Obviously, you need to have intention, but not be so rigid to the point where when things flow in a different direction, we can't see opportunity that exists in that space as well. And to hear my dad, like I said, the one that's like, you do this, you do this, you do this, like have this conversation with me and acknowledge that, maybe some of the things we taught you in terms of like what things need to look like, you might need to throw some of it out and reinvent some things for yourself. I mean, not in those words verbatim, but so even that for me was very insightful, because you have those realizations for yourself, but then to hear someone else, older than you, like reinforce that, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, we can take what works and throw out the rest and start again, or reinvent ourselves. It's all good.
It's always a bit more. There's a zillion ways to tell the story, and there
Mm-hmm.
is no one straight path.
Right.
And the story in this needs to be a good life, and whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But it's just a good life.
The story is a
Like
good life.
I'm. It's That's kind of all it is. Like I think of that today for a number of reasons, but I do think that like it's just to like be good and like not worry so much about all this. There's so much jibber jabber you could worry about. So like
Yeah.
just keep it moving.
Yeah.
And thinking about all the awesome stuff that you've been able to do, what do you think you'd tell 18-year-old LaToya?
Ah, oof. That's a good one. That's a good one, right? Because 18-year-old me probably wouldn't recognize this version of me. There are obviously things that are still the same, but yeah, there are some things that are different. Um, I would say you can just relax a little bit. You can like just relax a little bit. Just a smidge. You can relax just a little bit, right? Um, and keep having fun, right? I think for me, you said like the goal is a good life, right? And so, a lot of that anxiety and those worries and things like that, they kind of, impede on our ability to just be in life and just, be in the present moment and just have fun in the moment. And obviously life, has ups and downs, twists and turns, but, you know, just relaxing a little bit and trusting that it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it is all going to be okay. Like you're like
Yeah.
when you think about all the again every twist and turn, like when I
Hmm.
think back to our hilarious night at South by Southwest, from that point to
Right.
now, it's
Right.
like we're 19 different people, and that was what, 2 years
Exactly.
ago. That was like 2 years
2 years ago, right?
ago. Like
No,
yes.
that's so true. Yeah.
So listen, you just sort of have to rock with it, and then again, we can do that, and I think
Mhm.
I think that is the privilege of being in this time, that we do
Yeah.
have the privilege to rock with it. because others, like, you, if there was only one thing you could do and that's the only job you could have, then you had to go find another one that was exactly like that. As
Right.
opposed to now, where like, I don't like when I'm doing something, I'm just going to invent something else.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, and the other thing to add to that, I was happened to come across a colleague write something on one of the platforms, and they mentioned very similar to that, right? We get to try a lot of things and have almost like the license, the permission from a societal perspective to try new things now, right? But then also, for better or for worse, we have a lot of more access to tools and resources to help us from a technology perspective that can actually help us realize those things, right? Those things that you've probably been holding on to, but you felt like, I don't know how to start this. I don't feel like I have the resources. I don't feel like I have the connections. Like there's been a certain level of, I don't want to say democratization because I don't believe it's democratized, but I don't believe that. But there's a certain different level of access that technology has given to us. So therefore, those things that maybe you couldn't fathom 10, 15 years ago, like go ahead, like give it a try. So I do think that that's a really amazing thing for this moment right now, despite all the other, macro things that we're facing and dealing with.
it makes it a touch easier. I love it.
Yeah,
Yes,
a smidge. Yeah,
if
a smidge
door, yeah,
easier.
look, there's door number one, there's door number two, there's door number three, there's door number
They're
18,
optional. Yeah,
and I think it's allowing ourselves to one, own who we are and
yeah,
acknowledge who we are, and then be like, yes, you don't have to follow that same path. You can pick door 18. Like that's
yeah,
totally okay. And also,
yeah,
by the way, when you pick door 18, you're still showing up as you. So you bring all the awesome stuff with you to whatever is behind door 18, and like they're gonna love you for that. Because like, oh,
exactly.
you had this whole cornucopia of goodness.
Yeah.
And now you bring it to this new thing.
Absolutely. And I have this thing I always say, I probably got it from Oprah or someone, where it's like nothing nothing is wasted, right? Like we have these moments and we're like, oh, that was a waste of time and blah blah. If you really like just think about, to your point, the compounding of all your experiences, there's something that you're always able to tap into. And so each experience or each disappointment or whatever it is, it does help you in the next iteration or the next version of yourself, I believe. So I think that also is what makes for really good experiences as well. And just even navigating the ups and downs that life and career can bring to you.
It's just one crazy ass roller coaster. What else are you gonna do? It's fine. So my last question for you, do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
um, Give and ask. Well, I ask for those who may want to connect with me on social media to feel free to do so. I always love to hear and share ideas and brainstorm and collaborate with other people across our industry, marketing and advertising, but also across other industries, just to learn perspectives. So that's an ask, and then a give. I would just say, give yourself some grace, and just be kind to ourselves and be kind to each other. So that's what I would say in terms of just putting out there what's the give or the ask.
I love that. That's a fantastic way to call it the show. See, LaToya, what did I tell you? Easy peasy. So LaToya, it's always a delight to talk to you, and I'm
Thank
so
you.
thrilled we were able to get this scheduled to have you on for 29 Days of Magic. You walk in a beautiful frame of just like, yep, fantastic, and it's always fly. There's always a fantastic bag, and like, but like it's a wonderful calling card for you, which I always remember, which I adore so much. That I'm like, so thank you so much for being part of 29 Days of Magic.
And thank you, Laura, for having me. And thank you for being you, because whenever I see you in those rooms, you make being in those rooms easier as well. So I appreciate you also.
Thanks, girl. And that is our show.